Rapid urbanization and industrial development have left us living in an extremely polluted world. So what does the finance industry do to address it and help the issue? Today, let's explore a new concept and a new emerging concept of transition finance. So we all have heard about the Paris Agreement, which is to keep the global temperature rise this century well below 2 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels. However, are we doing enough? Are we investing in green assets enough? Turns out, not according to consensus. As you can see from the graphs below, there are gaps in financing green assets or renewable energy assets all throughout different sectors. So how do we fill in this gap? Transition finance could be the potential answer. Transition finance is similar to green finance in a way that it's trying to solve the same issue. However, transition finance invests in different kinds of assets. Unlike traditional green assets, it invests in brown assets that are transitioning to become more green. So for example, we can talk about activities such as carbon capture and storage. And transition finance is important because it is believed or estimated to create and contribute up to $1 trillion annually upon its implementation. So as you can see, the blue dots, it can fill in the financing gap. However, as the concept is nascent, it is still facing many challenges. The biggest challenge right now is around its definition. Transition finance has only officially started being used after ICMA published its Climate Transition Finance Handbook in 2020. Investors cannot still reach a consensus on what could be called transition finance. So in order to understand the concept deeper, I want to compare it to what's already on the market. So let's walk through a comparison between transition finance and green label finance. From the scope, both are the same. They are economy-wide, which means that they can technically finance any sector of the economy, as long as it satisfies their respective requirements. Of course, they have different metrics, they have different guidelines. The purpose is vastly different. For transition label, it is supporting brown assets that are undergoing transition, while the green label only supports the assets that are already green and clean. Then, if we look at the subject of financing, we can notice that green label financing is purely for green activities. So for example, I go out, I plant a tree, that is a green activity, and that is green finance. However, for transition labeled finance, it also can justify to finance specific entities. For example, I as a person say, my entire life is going to be more green. I'm committed to this transition. That potentially could make me satisfy the transition label finance metric. Of course, for the instrument, the green label is more limited since it only use of proceeds instruments, while transition label can also use innovative instruments such as sustainability-linked pricing. And as for maturity, transition label is a very nascent concept compared to a more mature green label. This gives us an overview of the concept. However, ahead there still lie many important challenges. How do we avoid transition washing? Similar to greenwashing, pretending to transition while actually just financing brown assets. How do we make sure that the market reaches a consensus around the transition finance label? I believe as youth that cares about climate change, these are all the issues we need to be addressing in the future. Thank you.